Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So it's been about 9 months since the new owners took over at Newcastle United, and I remember at the time everyone was coming up with the super team that they could build, and they were being linked with all of the biggest names in the world of football. But rather than splashing the cash on the big names with big wages, Newcastle went for a slightly different approach and appointed Eddie Howe as manager, with the hope that his experience in the Premier League would be enough to keep them up. As we know now, looking back, Newcastle got this decision pretty much spot on, because during the second half of the season, Newcastle were absolutely brilliant. They played some pretty good entertaining football and of course managed to survive. So to do this, Eddie Howe started with a sort of 4-4-2 formation, but quickly changed approach and settled on the 4-3-3, and this was the first sign of evolution for Eddie Howe as a manager, using a different shape. One of the first things that this led to was an increased amount of average possession under Eddie Howe compared to what they had under Steve Bruce. Now granted, it weren't too much of an increase, but I think it is a sign of things to come next season. When Howe came in, we also saw Newcastle playing with much more intensity, and from a defensive point of view, the whole team was now starting at least 5 or 6 yards higher up the pitch, looking to press their opponents nice and high. As a result of this, Newcastle were vastly improved from a defensive point of view, statistically halving their goals conceded per game, thanks to a combination of a new pressing strategy which worked well, and some new signings. With Newcastle pressing and defending so much better, the team were obviously able to get much more possession, as we were seeing earlier, and as a result of this, it meant that players like Allan Saint-Maximin were now able to get much more of the ball. All of this led to improved performances from Newcastle, and Eddie Howe deserves a lot of credit for that. People will throw it in his face that he spent a lot of money, but I still think that praise is deserved for the way that Newcastle recruited in January. Howe also deserves credit for the way that he moulded his midfield. Guimaraes came in but was given time to adapt, whilst Howe also done a brilliant job of developing Joelinton into one of the best ball-winning midfielders. Now since staying in the division, Newcastle have not slowed down, as they've now signed Pope from recently relegated Burnley, whilst also the reports are saying that they are about to finally secure the signature of Sven Botman for about £32 million. Once both of these signings have been completed, which they might be by the time this video goes out, Newcastle will have upgraded in 2 key areas, but for me there are still 3 positions in the team that need to be upgraded. As we saw there, the first area that I believe needs upgrading is Jonjo Shelvey in the holding midfielder role. Shelvey is a good player in his own right, and I would certainly keep him at the club in some sort of bench role, but an upgrade is still needed. Now the player that I want to put forward for this holding midfield position is 22-year-old French midfielder Ekitike. Now this is a player that I have mentioned a few times on the channel because I really am a big fan of him as a player. So one thing that Ekitike would bring to the midfield if he was signed is incredible press resistance, and his small figure gives him an incredible ability to protect the ball and turn away from danger, before then looking to carry the ball forward. Having turned his way away from danger, Ekitike is then a very good passer, and for me this is exactly what Newcastle need at the heart of their midfield. They need this player who is able to come in and dictate from the slightly deeper area. Ekitike would also provide a method of ball progression as well, and again that's thanks to his ability to dribble with the ball, skipping past opponents, whilst also possessing the ability to play the ball forward through the lines with his passing. As well as being a real upgrade in possession, Ekitike would also be an improvement from a defensive point of view as well, and that's why he could be the perfect sort of player to just sit in front of the 2 centre backs and shield the space in front of them. In these situations, Ekitike is a pretty good tackler, whilst he also has excellent reading of the game to make interceptions. And on top of this, he is also an excellent presser as well, something that we know Eddie Howe will demand next season. A lot of this is backed up when we look at his FBref report. We can see him ranking extremely well for pressures, tackles and interceptions, whilst he also ranks pretty well on the ball, considering he has played in a Lyon team that has struggled. With all of this taken into consideration, I do believe that Ekitike would be a brilliant player to come in and play as the holding midfielder, in between his former teammate Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton as well, creating a brilliant balance. With the midfield now being complete, I think it's time to make some changes in the forward line, and I want to start with Ryan Fraser on the right wing. He brings a lot in terms of energy and work rate, but Newcastle need an upgrade on the ball. Now the player that I would sign for this position is Ismaila Sarr, and I did actually mention this in my one signing for each Premier League team video, so make sure to go check that out, but for now I want to focus on a potential signing of Sarr. So I think the first thing that is pretty clear is that Ismaila Sarr would bring brilliant ball carrying and dribbling ability. This is something we've seen from Sarr in the Premier League already, when he has been one of Watford's brightest players. Particularly against the bigger teams, Sarr has often been Watford's outball thanks to his ability to take the ball and really drag the team forward, before then bringing brilliant creativity and end product in and around the opposition's penalty area. What this signing would do is bring a real sense of balance to the Newcastle front line. At times in the past they have been over-reliant on St Maximin down the left, but a signing of Sarr on the right would make them much more threatening on both sides. Carrying this threat down both sides means it's difficult to double up on them from a defensive point of view, leaving more room for these tricky wingers to really get at their men, and then once in the box, Sarr would bring a goal scoring ability. For all these reasons I think Sarr would be a brilliant signing. He should be quite affordable with Watford getting relegated, and I think it would be a real bargain considering the dribbling, creativity and goal scoring he would bring to the team. So now we've upgraded part of the attack, I want to finish the team by moving on to the striker role as we look for a Chris Wood upgrade. To be fair, he has done okay since joining in January, but I just think Newcastle need a different profile. So the player that Newcastle have been heavily linked with over the past month or so is Ekitike. Now I know that the move has stalled a little bit in the past week or two, but personally I think Newcastle should do everything to bring him in. So Ekitike turned 20 years old at the start of last week, and despite being so young, he is actually an incredibly well-rounded young centre forward, with a brilliant ability to drop into slightly deeper areas to link the play. A player in the Newcastle front line doing this has the potential to be lethal, especially with Sarr and St Maximin starting out wide, with Ekitike dropping deep, creating space, leaving room for these wingers to drive into. As well as having the ability to drop deep to get the ball, Ekitike also enjoys moving slightly wider to receive the ball into feet, from where he then often looks to get on the turn, before then driving forward down the line with the ball at his feet. When doing this, Ekitike is a very technically clean player, whilst also having pretty decent pace, which, as I was saying, makes him very efficient at getting the ball slightly deeper, before then looking to carry the team forward through the thirds. Now, whilst Ekitike is more than capable of doing these things, he is probably at his best when he is in and around the penalty area, because again he has brilliant quick feet and close control to take the ball in these tight situations in the penalty area. As well as being able to jink his way through a box to create his own chances, Ekitike also really thrives off of balls into the box, and he has this brilliant ability to sense where the ball is going to go to get himself in a goal scoring position. This can be seen to some extent when we look at his stats, as he managed to grab 10 goals in the league. Now that may not be a great return, but he did play for a team that finished 12th, so personally I think it's a good goal scoring season. It's made more impressive by the fact that he didn't just score tap-ins all season long, which we can see when we look at the expected goals model, and over the course of the season he actually exceeded his expected total by 2.8. This finishing ability from the front could be exactly what Newcastle need to lead the line, and personally I think that if this trio can get together then they could be absolutely deadly, especially in big games when they can get a little bit more space. With all of that taken into consideration, this is the Newcastle team that I would like to see heading into next season. Now, I know it's several new players coming in at once, but if Howe could get them to gel, then this team would fly up the table. With Pope in goal, Newcastle will have themselves a brilliant shot stopper, who will earn Newcastle some valuable points over the course of the season, although he will need to do some work to refine his ability with the ball at his feet. The quality would continue into the defence as well, with Botman bringing a real quality from a defensive point of view, whilst also being excellent on the ball, making him the perfect player to play between two excellent ball progressing fullbacks. My favourite area of the team would be in the midfield, where there could be a beautiful balance of ball winning ability, progressive passing as well as goal scoring threat, making for a midfield trio that could gel together really nicely. Newcastle would be hoping for more of the same from the attack as well, and as I was saying earlier, I think that this team could be lethal in transition, whilst also possessing the flair and creativity needed to break down slightly deeper defences. No matter who signs for the club over the course of the summer, Eddie Howe will remain the most important person at the club, and I do genuinely believe that if given the time and resources that he needs, then he could help Newcastle build something truly brilliant. But I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you think Newcastle should sign? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.